remember the picture in the cover of the Hawkins of you and King Clancy. Tell me about your relationship with him.
Well, King was probably one of the first guys when I'd been drafted, and I walked through the old offices out back of the Reds, and King had an office, and other than a little bit of scouting and hanging for breakfast early in the mornings with Harold, I think he just had the office, and he told me in no uncertain words, like only King Clancy could, with a lot of F-bombs going through the sentences.
He loved to swear.
How King used to talk, and just saying how great it was going to be. Like, just great to be here, kid. Nice to see it. And then every morning he'd come to practice, and he would drive in at his age, park at the back, and go to the hot stove with Harold for breakfast.
Yeah.
And he couldn't see the end of the hall, but he could recognize our voices, whether it be Russ Courtnall and I walking in, here's talking, and he'd be hollering at us at the end of the hallway because he could recognize the voice, but he still couldn't see it anymore. But he was driving to the rink.
Great.
But it was
great.
And just he was like another grandfather figure that just loved the game, loved talking to him, comparing stories right back from when he played to watching us play.
Imagine that guy tell you about playing against Eddie Shore.
It's amazing. It's he instilled, and that was a tough time for us in the mid '80s.
Yeah, you guys.
And he instilled fun in the game. Like, he was somebody who was past all of it. He wasn't going to let it affect him, but it was somebody in the office, because usually everybody else in the office would be feeling the same pressure as the players feel.
Sure.
Where he was past all that, pretty certain of his job and what he was doing, because he didn't have one anyway, other than he got to hang out. But he just fun. The game is fun, no matter what goes on, what's coming around. It's a profession, but you have to have fun with it.
Why did you wear 17?
That was a sweater hanging in the stall when I got here.
That was it?
That was it. There was sweater was in the stall, and that was the number that was there.
What did you wear when you played junior?
I was 22 in junior, so Rick Vibe wasn't going to give up 22, I guess. And I'd wore all sorts of numbers. 6 in World Junior. I think I was 16 in Bantam. I had all different. I had no one special number growing up, so it didn't. As long as I was wearing the blue and white after I was drafted, that's what mattered. It didn't matter the number.
Well, Clark threw the big hit on David Shaw on the forecheck. The puck came around to John Cullen. Shaw let Clark go to the net by himself after the hit. Here's the hit. Now Shaw lets Clark go to the net, or makes a very undetermined bid to stop him. And Cullen found him, and it's 1-1.
One of the amazing things about your injuries is that you never really had a bad back. You had injuries that came to rest in your back.
That's true. I injured everything else.
Yes.
And the back was usually the straw that, okay, I can't play anymore, because you can play with a sore groin until it goes away, and then it comes in your back. But it's really the groin that you have to be treating to get your back better, because as a player, you play through injuries, but you can't play hurt. And that's the fine line, especially in the early days until we got great medical attention in 89, 90, 91 there, when the medical staff in all of hockey really started to catch up to where the game of hockey was. And that players started looking after their bodies better, rather than saying, tape it up, I can still go.
You ran into Chris Broadhurst, and that was really a turning point for you, wasn't it? Because you went to the Mayo Clinic, you got advice from Ken Thompson about where to fix your back, but it really changed for you when you came in touch with Chris Broadhurst.
Well, Chris Broadhurst is probably the smartest medical guy I've ever come across, and it was with Ken Thompson sent me to London, England, to see his osteopath and doctors over there, and they had said, you have to find a guy in Toronto that can treat you on a regular basis. Now that we've got you back in line, you have to find somebody that can maintain that if you're going to continue playing the way you want to play. And through trial and error, came across Chris, who was just working right up the road here in Carleton on Yonge at College Street there.
And he had experience with people who had been in car accidents, so he knew the kind of trauma that you were dealing with, right?
Yeah, no, he very smart in that he knew many different kinds of therapy and coming at injuries at any different angles. So it wasn't just one way or not at all. We just kept trying things, and because I'd missed a year in a row without playing.
That's right.
And when we got back on, and so I was starting my third year on with Chris, I was doing 4 hours a day of treatment, 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours at night, and that lasted right up until '94 when I got traded.
Now, is that just on a game day, or is
every
that
day.
every day?
Every day through the first few years, and then game days and tough road trips, I was 4 hours a day just to play.
How would you do that? Would you go over to Chris's room when they'd sit at the table and you'd buy dessert for the guys, or how did this work?
We did therapy sessions everywhere, anywhere from 7 in the morning. I'd be meeting Chris in the dressing room so he could spend time and then get to the rest of the team when everybody else got there. And then at 7 at night, we'd be back doing it again. And then if you're on the road, you do the treatments at the rink and back at the hotel before he went to bed again. He'd be treating players up in his room, and that's just the energy and the commitment he had to the players that got us and kept us playing.
What did it do to play in places like Detroit, on the island, in Tampa? How did that sort of bring this place back into focus for you?
Well, I think it really brings back to where hockey really means something. Canada is hockey, and this building is what really hockey is. It can be very, very positive, or if you're playing here and it's a tough time, it can be very negative as a player. But there's always something going on about hockey. You learn, sometimes if you've played here too long, you forget the kind of energy this place has, because every player that comes in, especially back then before the media was as big as it was, every newspaper and every TV, that's where everybody else found out about hockey. Playing here on a Saturday,
right? That's
when all the visiting teams found out. This is where all the scoops were.
Right.
This is where everything went through this town.
Right.
And so there was always energy in this building. It was always a very tough home building to play in, because there was always 10 guys on the other team that were from Ontario.
And wanted to do really well.
I think Dale Howardchuk and Bellows drove us up the wall here.
Of course.
I can't remember, either one of them were always getting 3 goals or 5 points in this building.
Yeah.
They'd come in here, they'd have their family, and they would turn it up, not to mention the Oilers, and they'd actually stay in Toronto and make Toronto their hub for their Eastern road trip. So you'd be bumping in. This isn't your hometown. You guys can go home. But it's the center of hockey.
Took a hit. They move it back out front, and Clark can't get on track. Schneider was there to help him. Now Clark. Schneider, and Clark was open, and he scores. That's his 500th career point in the National Hockey League.